What's going on, NFL fans? Mr. Shotty here. Just going to go over a summary of what I believe will happen in the first 4 rounds. The draft is tonight. As I said in my last video, I don't really care too much about the 5, 6, 7. There's a lot of trades. There's too much really to do. We got the important rounds out of the way. Let's get into the summary. The Cardinals selected Elam to go along with Murphy and Gladney. They selected Hall to replace Chase Edmonds, and they selected Nick Benito to replace Chandler Jones. Atlanta Falcons selected Garrett Wilson to replace Calvin Ridley because of his suspension, Drake Jackson to fill a hole, as well as Sam Williams as an edge rusher, Carson Strong as Marcus Mariota has dealt with his fair share of injuries, Jeremy Ruckert to give him a in the line blocking tight end, and drafted Matthew Butler to play defensive line. The Baltimore Ravens selected George Kalifdis after missing out on Cedarius Smith, Kyler Gordon to play slot corner, Martin Emerson to give him better depth at corner, Luke Fortner to battle to play center, Dorian Beavers better linebacker depth, John Ridgway in case Michael Pierce gets hurt, Pierre Strong to replace Justice Hill as he's proven he cannot stay healthy, Wan'Dale Robinson as another wide receiver, and Luke Goedeke to play swing tackle. Buffalo Bills added Derek Stingley to play opposite Tre'Davious White, James Cook as a running back, and Atito Ogbonna to replace Harrison Phillips as depth along the defensive line. Carolina Panthers selected Malik Willis as they needed a quarterback and Vernon McKinley to compete with Xavier Woods. Chicago Bears added George Pickens to be their number 1 wide receiver, Darian Kinnard to play guard, replacing James Daniels, and Pedarian Manthus to play defensive line to cover the losses of Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks, and Belai Nichols. The Cincinnati Bengals selected Devontae Wyatt to give him defensive line help, Kobe Bryant to replace Eli Apple, Nick Cross as safety depth, and Jake Ferguson as Hayden Hurst has been the answer to replace CJ Uzama. The Cleveland Browns selected Travis Jones to give him interior defensive line pass rush, John Mechie to play wide receiver, Alec Lindstrom to play center, and Eric Uzukoma to play wide receiver. Dallas Cowboys select Devin Lloyd in order to give them flexibility with Micah Parsons to play edge and linebacker. They select Tyler Smith to play left guard, where they lost Connor Williams, and select John Fitzpatrick to be the backup tight end behind Schultz. With their first pick, the Denver Broncos select Troy Anderson to address their biggest hole inside linebacker, select Abraham Lucas to give competition at right tackle, select Greg Dulcich to give him a backup tight end, Zamir White to give him a backup running back behind Williams, and Neil Farrell to give him depth along the defensive line. The Detroit Lions need an edge rusher, so that's when they select Thibodeau, select Drake London, as they needed another receiver outside of Amon St. Brown. They selected Jaquan Brisker to play along safety alongside Tracy Walker, and selected Brendan Smith to play alongside Anzalone. The Green Bay Packers don't make a mistake. Make sure they give Rodgers a wide receiver with Williams. Select an offensive tackle as they lost Billy Turner. Select Chad Muma to play inside with Devondre Campbell. Select DeMarvin Leal to give him depth along defensive line. Jeffrey Gunter to replace Darius Smith as a third edge rusher. And select Vincent Gray to give them better cornerback depth. The Texans went Ikem Ekwonu with their first pick to give them a better offensive line, Jermaine Johnson a better defensive pass rush, Daxton Hill to give them a better playmaking safety, Kenneth Walker as the value was too good and running back still in need, David Bell to give them another wide receiver, Damone Clark to give them another linebacker, and Alante Taylor to give them a corner. The Colts select Ferrer to replace Eric Fisher as their left tackle, Tolbert to give them another wide receiver outside Pittman, and Marcus Hayes to compete at right guard. The Jacksonville Jaguars selected Aiden Hutchinson, number 1 overall, best edge rusher in the class. They need an edge rusher. Nakobe Dean as linebacker is pretty needy. Cole Strange to replace Brandon Linder at center. Justin Ross, Marvin Jones is 32 years old. Christian Kirk is in the number 1. Ross has experience with Lawrence, so they selected him. Kohler in case Evan Ingram gets hurt. At 29, the Kansas City Chiefs went and got an edge rush to go across from Frank Clark. They got a corner to play alongside Snead. At 30, they got a wide receiver because the value was too good to try to replace Tyreek Hill. They selected an offensive tackle to move Andrew Wiley into a reserve spot, not forgetting their lesson from a couple years ago. They selected Isaiah Thomas to back up Frank Clark, as well as Boye Mafa along the edge. They selected Leo Chenal to give them another linebacker, and they selected Josh Jobe to give them more depth at corner, and they selected Jelani Woods to give them a tight end behind Travis Kelce. The Chargers selected, with their first two picks, rebuilding that offensive line after losing Balaga. They also added Cam Taylor-Britt to replace Michael Davis at corner and selected Kirby Joseph to make better safety depth behind Derwin James. The Rams selected Joshua Williams to give them a corner across from Ramsey and Donovan West to replace Austin Corbett. The Raiders got an offensive tackle, as the Chargers and Broncos have great edge rushers, and they selected a third defensive lineman for Patrick Graham's 3-4. Dolphins addressed their biggest weakness on the offensive line at center, and they selected Dameon Pierce to give them another running back just in case Edmonds gets hurt, because Gaskin hasn't proved he can be the guy, and Mostert hasn't been able to stay healthy. The 12th pick, after Minnesota struck out on Derek Stingley, they added Jordan Davis to give them a better third defensive lineman, Marcus Jones to be their slot corner, Cam Jurgens to compete at center along with Bradbury, Calvin Austin to be their gadget wide receiver, and Cade Otton to give them better depth along tight end. The Saints selected Trevor Penning to replace Teron Armstead at left tackle, Kenny Pickett in case the Saints offensive coordinator can't repeat Sean Payton's magic on Winston, Christian Watson to give him a better third wide receiver, Cameron Thomas to give him depth along edge rusher, Jojo Dolman to play as third linebacker, and Khalil Davis to give him better depth along defensive front. Patriots selected Trent McDuffie to give them a better corner, Jimmery Saylor to give them a right guard, Sky Moore to give them another small receiver like Danny Amendola, Jalen Armour Davis as corner depth, and Dominic Robinson as another edge rusher. Giants selected Charles Cross to play right tackle, Trayvon Walker to give them an edge rusher, Christian Harris to play inside with Martinez, Trey McBride to replace Evan Ingram, and Brian Cook to play strong safety alongside Xavier McKinley. Jets had a really good draft as they got the best corner in the class with Gardner. They also got the best safety with Hamilton. Traylon Burks gives them another wide receiver, a guy that can be their number one. David Ojabo gives them an edge rusher across from Lawson. Azama gives them a linebacker alongside Mosley. Spiller gives them a duo with Carter. Max Mitchell gives them a future right tackle, and Zach Carter gives them more defensive front depth. Eagles selected Tyler Linderbaum to give him a right guard this year and maybe a future center, Andrew Booth to play corner across from Slay, Lewis Seen to give them a playmaking safety, Alec Pierce to give them another wide receiver, Channing Tindall to give them a third linebacker, and Isaiah Likely in case Whiteside can't pick up on tight end, so they got another tight end behind Goddard. Pittsburgh Steelers selected Matt Corral in case there is no Trubisky magic, Perrine Winfrey as both of their top two defensive linemen are above the age of 30, and Tariq Woolen to give them another corner. The Seahawks traded up for Evan Neal to give them their left tackle. They also nabbed Riddler in the second to give them a quarterback to keep their wide receivers happy, Arnold Ebekti to give them a number one edge rusher, and Thayer Munford to give them a right tackle. San Francisco 49ers selected Dylan Parham to replace Tomlinson, Zian McCullum to give them another corner, Kingsley Enagbare to give them another edge rusher outside of Boza and Ford, and selected Romeo Doubs to give them more depth at wide receiver. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost both guards, so they replaced one with Mason and one with Johnson. Lost Seuss, so they replaced him with Hall, and selected Jay Cone to compete with Trask for life after Brady. The Titans selected Sam Howell as they see that Tannehill, when he's get paid all the money and he can't have all the help around him, he's not the same guy. Ed Ingram to replace Saffold at left guard. Madaji Sanders to give him a third edge rusher behind Dupree and Landry. Brian Robinson to take some of the workload off Henry, as well as replacing Deontay Foreman as number 2 running back, and Damari Mathis to give them insurance in case Caleb Farley can't stay healthy. Washington Commanders selected Chris Olave to give them a wide receiver outside of Terry McLaurin. Quay Walker as they move Davis back to outside linebacker to give them an inside linebacker. Jalen Patier to give them some safety depth, and Lectus Smith to replace Sheriff at right guard. Start of the draft being tonight. This is my last draft video. As always, I hope everyone enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments who you want your team to select. Like and subscribe. Peace out.